Kia ora and welcome to another Aotearoa Rugby Pod. I'm Ross, Karl, and we've got a big week ahead for you because it's our favourite week on the show. It's Blues Crusaders week, and with no further ado, let's bring in our Blues representative, or former Blues captain, James Parsons. Thanks so much for joining us again. Down in Christchurch, our man from the Crusaders, Bryn Hall. Bryn, you love Blues Crusaders
I
week.
thought it was going to be Dan Carter. You'll do.
Sadly not, Chip. Sadly not. But no, look, it's an exciting week. I think as players, these are the games that you want to be a part of, and I think for the fact that the Blues have been travelling really, really well, and look, we've had two results that have been really close, and it's put us in a position now where it's a top of the table clash against a really high and high flying team at the moment, and the fact that we didn't get to play early in there. The fact that both teams have been able to win games consecutively, it's kind of added to the fact that it's on Easter weekend, and it's going to be a hell of a night, and one that we're really looking forward to.
For 5 years, we've said the Crusaders are the team to beat, the Crusaders are the team to beat. Let's go into our quick fire round, Jipper. Are the Blues now the team to beat?
No.
No. They're not. Are they the team to beat, Bryn?
Oh, they're top of the table, aren't they?
Quick fire.
This is a yes or
They're
no
at the top of the
situation.
table.
Quick fire, mate.
For us as an opponent.
Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
I'll tell you
Yes.
that. They are the team to, well, they're the team to beat this weekend, because if you don't, you lose the points.
I'm not going to labour any pressure on my Blues boys. It's all the Crusaders are still the team to beat.
Okay, into the next question. Player of the round for you, and I'm presuming I know which team it comes from.
Yeah, Beauden Barrett for me. Exceptional. I mean, his class of that game and his impact, special.
Okay, Brenna, throwing the out of the blue, player of the round at you.
It was actually Beauden Barrett as well. Yeah, two classy touches to really ice that game. So, yeah, I'll go with Bodie.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. Yes or no? Do you agree with Marshy? Are constant line-out drives boring?
No, hookers are finally getting some tries. Keep it going. Brilliant.
Well, it does give Brenner a chance to slap some more forwards on the butt as they go forward. Do you like line-out drives?
Oh, look, mate, as long as you score tries, and I think the Highlanders, look, they'll take anything at this moment around winning, and so they went to their set piece and they kept going to it and they got the rewards out of it. So, yeah, how good.
Okay, well, why don't we jump into the next one straight off the back of that then, because it's incredibly related. You're Aotearoa. It's the 79th minute. You have a kickable shot at goal, or you could take a line-out drive against the Crusaders who haven't conceded a line-out drive try in who knows how long. Which option do you take?
Oh, it's either or, really, depending on how you feel it as a captain. So I think, look, Artie felt in that moment that they had the ascendancy and they were on top of it instead of going to golden point, which, it's always a 50-50, never knowing how that's going to go. He thought right then and there it was a great time to win the game. And so, it takes a ball. It's a real ballsy call, considering, the fact you could have gone to golden point and probably most people would have thought that. But look, he wanted to do it. He backed himself, and unfortunately, Scott Barrett, who made an awesome read in that, and been able to get up the ball and win us the game. But look, to be honest, I don't see it as a wrong choice. You can say it now and saying that he should have taken the three, but look, imagine him scoring the try, or he misses that kick. You never know. Geordie might miss that kick, and then you're in a different conversation. So, I reckon it was a good call by Artie.
I can understand why, because they needed to win. They wanted to win the game. They had the territorial advantage going into the corner. That potentially we don't know it was going to be a line-out drive. It could have been some special move. They'll only know that, and I don't think it's just on Artie. They clearly had a chat about it and went to the corner. Personally, if I was the captain, I think we can see with my history, I probably would have taken the three, but that doesn't necessarily mean that would be right either, because we'll never know.
I think you allude to a good point there in that, okay, maybe the line-out drive isn't on, but maybe getting quick ball off the back with Geordie Barrett taking a crash ball the way they used to use Nanila Mape could have been on.
Or Jules. I think Jules had probably one of his best games, and he was really destructive with the ball in hand, or Artie himself. Look, they would have built to something, but it wasn't to be. You've got to commend Scott Barrett, man. That's a ballsy play to get up in the air that close to the line. That is an all or nothing play, because if he doesn't get his hand on the ball, right, and Artie wins that clean, they're down and going. And they don't have that, it's hard to get, go up and then get down and stop a mauls. And as we've seen, there's been a number of tries. So yeah.
Geez, one Bryn Hall was letting the rest know what was going on in behind that drive. There was a lot of shouting. I could barely hear the commentators over the yelling from Bryn Hall and behind.
Wait, Brynner, you stopped a couple of tries, I reckon. That running line, you got in between, you were on the edge defending, and I think it might have been Wes Hooson outside you, and you just got in between that passing line, and Jamie Booth threw it out. Was that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was another one.
Yeah, no, it was.
You did an outstanding chop tackle on someone that got on your outside, and I thought, oh, Struth, he's in trouble here, and the big fella turned up and got him to death.
Oh, I'll tell you what, the first one was quite funny with Boothie because we've known each other for a long time, and I actually remember running past that when he went through around Tams. I was actually screaming the ball, saying "Boothie now, Boothie now!"
Yeah.
And so I actually don't know if he actually heard me, and the fact that he knew that it was me chucking that ball, because he did have a look at me, but I think the fact that I was there screaming, it might have helped in that. And then I'll tell you what, I've got a new respect for our centres. And I said last week, I've got a massive respect around hookers a couple of weeks ago and throwing that line out ball. But I tell you what, when you're out on that edge and you've got an outside back that can put footwork on, it's a lonely place out there. So
who was it? Who was it that you tackled? Who was it that you chop tackled?
Morby.
Oh yeah. And he was having a great game.
Yeah, it was. So no, I helped my Ethan Blackadder was inside me, and then Lester kind of stayed high and kind of gave me the outside, and so he was lucky enough to be able to just get on my tracks and just run as fast as I can and chop him down.
And you helped Brendan Pickerel with that decision. What were you telling him to do at the end there?
Oh, to tell you the truth, Ross, and it wasn't just me. I'd give you the tip. There was a lot of Hurricanes boys that were screaming. There's a lot of Crusader boys that were steaming. The Water Boy, our video person was in the background screaming as well. So, but no, it was just trying to, I think the rest sometimes they need to know the rules, and we were just kind of helping them out with what we saw in front of us.
They know the rules, mate. They know the rules.
The fact that, again, that's it. We were just trying to help them out a little bit and making that call. So
I hope they watch this podcast, especially coming into Friday. Crusaders, they're not sure if they know the rules.
Well, I mean, that's probably not as bad as stating it on national television immediately after the game, is it? Like, that Artie's in a very similar position where he basically stated that he doesn't think they know the rules or they don't know what's going on. What did you make of him demanding better from the officials?
Oh, look, geez, I've been where Artie is. It's frustrating when you win so many tight games on the back, and I think it was a form of frustration rather than anything else. And to be fair, it probably just sat under the line before going across it too far, and I think he pulled himself back. But that was, it is always hard when you get a camera chucked in your face and you've just, he's put so much in. He's just lost to the Chiefs the week before. He's now just lost to the Crusaders. 3 losses on the bounce. It clearly had an impact. But yeah, I don't think anything more needs to be made about it, but I'm sure he's aware that it was a fine line.
Very frustrated. Were the Hurricanes pretty frustrated? Could you feel it there on the ground?
Oh, it's just a big moment in a game. Both teams that, have got down to the last second, it's the last line out of the game, and everything's on the line. So, look, it cares you so much for you talk around, the Hurricanes, unfortunately, if they're on the trot, and all it takes is for them to be able to get over that line and they win that game. And then for us on the other side, we've got to be able to hold our emotions. Scooter makes a really good call, but, on the back of that, if he doesn't get up there, we've got to be able to do a line out more, and then we've got to defend for how many phases, whatever it takes to be able to get the result. So I just think you had 2 teams that were just desperate to get the win. And to be honest, it came down to one massive play with Scott Barrett making a huge play. You know how much, like you talked about, how hard it is to be able to get up and win that ball. But considering where you are on the field in that moment, was a massive play from our skipper, and was a big telling point in us winning that game in the end.
And I think probably the frustration, and you could see the dejection on the Hurricanes team's bodies, comes back to the original question. And I'm not being facetious here, Bryn, but the Crusaders are the team to beat. Every New Zealand team wants them and wants to go after them. And so when you come that close to then just fall short is, it's almost worse. It's like in golf when a putt just lips out. You'd almost rather miss it by miles than it just lipping out, because you feel like you've been robbed.
So when you're on the golf course and you're about to
I still think about the Crusaders.
most of the time you're reading it and you're sitting back and you're going, is it going to go? Is it actually going to go left? Is it actually going to go left? Is it actually going to go left? And you question yourself so much that you get the line slightly wrong. And if you'd just gone with your initial instinct, it probably would have gone straight down the middle and into the hole.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Bryn could probably allude to that because he's playing on a 1. How does that go, mate?
Oh, I'm not, mate. I'm definitely not. I'm just, to be honest, I don't putt very well. So when they go on, I'm just thankful that it's not a 3-putt. So, nah, I'm definitely not.
What I'm trying to get to here is if you're Adi Savia and you are thinking about what to do here, should you be making the call or hesitating and talking to your coach on the sideline before you make the call?
Oh, look, you've got to back yourself. Yeah. Nah, you make the call. He's the captain for a reason. His gut was right. He knows his team. He knows where they're at. Yeah. And as I say, we don't know because of a great play from Scooter. We'll never know, but he has to back his instincts, 100%. And that's why I don't think it's that drastic. Like, there's a lot of reasons why it's a good call as well. Because take the 3, then you're deciding, are they kicking off? And we've seen in Golden Point, it's quite key to win that toss of who's kicking off, who's receiving, because most of the time we've seen it go the one way. So he was going for the win in an all-in play, and I think good to him.
I just want to touch on that, Ross, because if you look at probably last year, we actually went in the same position where we actually went to Golden Point, and then we were able to win in the Golden Point. And so I think this year, just being at the ground and feeling that game. The crowd was right behind them. You should have seen when they lined up to be able to go for the try. The whole kind of stadium just grew and lifted, and so you could see on their faces as well that it was the right call because they had that kind of enthusiasm and emotion from the crowd. And so again, it just came back to one big play. And if we look about it now, hindsight's a great thing. But if they score that try, it's a great call, and everybody's like, "Artie, what a brave call that was." You know what I mean? So. We beat them in Golden Point last year, and then he might have thought there could be in his decision-making thing. But personally, I just think it was a real good feel thing, and I think they had the momentum in that game. And look, it was just a big play from Scooter in the end.
And let's not forget, he did a quick tap and scored a try. Like, his instincts are pretty good as a captain. He very rarely falls short. Hence the reason he got the All Black captaincy as well. So I certainly don't think it's as bigger mistake as it's probably been made out to be after the fact.
Without that moment of doubt where you go and talk to the coaches about it, do you actually execute this better if you just go,
100%. They'll review it. They'll review it. They'll look at it, see they'll talk about what they were thinking, as in probably the leaders out there. That's how you get better. That's a high performance environment. They certainly won't go, oh yeah, it was a good call and let's just move forward. They'll like any team, you go bone deep. You scrape every bit of it apart so that you can perform better the next week.
I can't hear that bone deep thing without imagining it coming out of Steve Hanson's mouth. You're going to go bone deep. Oh, no. Here we go. So 3 losses on the bounce for the Canes. They've got a game against MP, midweek game against Moana Pacifica, which we're recording this podcast before, so we can't really talk about it even though we're to air on the same night. And then a few days later, they're up against the Highlanders. So you're 3 on the bounce, you got 2 games in a couple of days. What do they need to turn around considering that context?
Look, I think firstly, because of the hype and the reaction to the Crusaders-Canes game, it's actually great that they've got a game on Tuesday night because they can just rip straight back into it and sort of take it out on playing footy. The one area I think they probably would want to improve is they 2 tries, 12 entries into the 22. They definitely had their opportunities to put more points on the Crusaders. But to be fair, the Crusaders have done this all year, holding teams out when they've come in. But 2 out of 12, I think it's 17% in that red zone. They'd probably want to lift that up if they're having that many entries. Use the Crusaders. They went in 10 times. For 4 tries, that's more up at that 40%. Blues were at 33%. I think the Highlanders at 66%. So, it is a little bit more. They'd be wanting a little bit more bang for their buck.
But that statistic from the last line out obviously reads true. When the people are criticising what happened at the end,
a lot of
that statistic plays into it.
No, well, but a lot of it's not coming from set piece. A lot of the time they're making great breaks from deep and then getting into the 22 and not just finishing. It's not really about going to set pieces for them. They actually are really clinical from 50 to the 22 and making great dents or getting on the outside. And then it's right when they're in that 22, they've got to be able to get across that white line to make it worth it, because they played some great rugby to get in there. But we know the Crusaders are pretty ruthless in their defence.
Yeah, I think what they also did really well as well against us, they really exposed our backfield. 250-22s that were massive in the game. You look at Julian Severe's one off our counter attack. I thought probably from our review we actually kicked pretty poorly. It's one area that we think we probably didn't get a lot of payout, whether it be with our contestable game. We're actually kicking into space where we gave opportunities for Geordie Barrett and Julian Severe to actually kick in for 50-22. So I think that's another improvement and something they can draw on moving forward, because I think the momentum you can gain from 50-22 and especially putting your team back in a really good attacking space is really good, because I think what you said, their set piece attack off their line out mauls, whether it be a bunter play or straight to 9 and getting into those kind of channels of the 13 and winger, they're really good around that. So I think for us moving forward, we obviously want to sort out our backfield, but on the weekend, I think the ability that they were able to build pressure through the kicking game, which they probably didn't do against us last time, is something they can move on for the next fortnight going against Moana and the Highlanders. And I actually think it's a big 2 games for the Hurricanes moving forward, especially for with the playoffs not too far away and touring to Australia. You can get a bit more confidence. On that Tuesday, they'll know. Obviously, Moana Pacific not too long ago got that win against them, so that'll be added motivation for that group. And probably a lot of guys will get another opportunity to be able to play that, to stake a claim for them the back end of that season with the Highlanders and the end of the week, and then heading over to Australia as well. So there's a lot to play for the Hurricanes. I think it's a really crucial next 2 games for them in the big part of their season, wanting to make the playoffs.
Brenna, just looking forward to this week, and I know you won't be able to give too much away. You mentioned your kicking game. I was surprised. I got a note here just around how little you guys kicked, because you normally, you're so big on that contestable game. Now, having played in a number of these Christchurch derbies, it's normally an area you love to go to with the contestables or the aerial game against the Blues. Are we going to see that this Friday?
I won't tell you too much, Jeff, but I think it was just, I can probably say more so the learnings we got from on the weekend, because you are right, it's a massive part of our DNA, and I think probably the learning was, like, if we're not getting our kicks back or being able to build pressure with getting them back with a contestable and winning them in the air, or getting their ball back, then what's another way that we can try and do that? So, for the fact that we probably didn't get what we wanted out of that contestables, we felt that holding on to the ball and building pressure that way was a much better way. And so I think in that first half, like you said, our percentage in our knockout zone in that kind of 22 area, we scored 3 tries, for the fact that we held onto the ball and build pressure and wanted the Hurricanes to be able to make more tackles, and so then take their legs out. And instead of giving them the ball back off our contestables or our long, poor kicks, and giving them the ability to be able to attack and then build long phase counts, we decided to change that a little bit. So it's probably moving forward, it's probably going to be adapting, depending on how the game's going. We'll have a plan around what that's going to look like, but I think for us, and probably the learnings that we found on the weekend, we actually adapted really well. We didn't get what we wanted out of our game plan around our kicking game, just due to the fact of execution, but we were able to find a way and being able to hold on the ball a little bit longer than we usually do.
I'm looking forward to the kick battle for that game, because I think it's an area the Blues have been really strong in this season, more so than previous seasons. So, if it's not attacking kicks, they're really good in those contestable kicks as well, or just coming off 10 up and unders in the midfield. So she should be a good derby.
Before we leave this game, let's talk a little about Ruben Love and Celestia Ayasi. We've seen moments of brilliance from both of them. We've seen effectiveness from both of them. We don't see regular game time from both of these guys. Should they be starting regularly? And if they're not, why aren't they?
Well, I suppose Celestia, it's a hard one. We know the talent he has and how good he is when he does play. But you'd have to say Wes and Julian are playing fairly well at the moment. And then, from Ruben's point of view, I thought he was really good when he stepped up into probably the 10 jersey against the Chiefs. He really ignited their attack. But it's one thing doing that when it's against tired bodies. So, I think Jason Holland knows his team and sees them more regularly to know who he wants to put out there. So I think their opportunities will come, but I think it's more around the game plan and structures. And sometimes, as Bryn will know in the Crusaders, and it's the same across all the teams, certain players are selected for certain roles in certain games because their skill set best fits the game plan.
Does it surprise you at all, Bryn?
Not really. I think, just playing the Hurricanes, to be honest, I think the way that Jules is playing, I think Jules is playing, before he left, and, you look at his All Black form, he's pretty similar to like when he was playing there. He looks trim, he looks fit. His second efforts and being able to work off the ball has been great, and Wes Goosen complements it as well. So I think what I enjoy seeing about Jules and Wes Goosen is they're always involved in the game. If the ball isn't getting to them, they're working in ways that they can get into the game. I use Julian Severe's example of that 50-22. Having kicking games, and look, we know how destructive he is with ball on hand, and we know it's evident on the weekend with the amount of times he got over the advantage line. But I think, when Celeste's given an opportunity, I think it's consistently seeing those high impacts and those kind of high moments in games where you're working off the ball and getting those second and third touches, those second and third efforts, because look, I think that's what Wes and Julian do so well, and I think that's probably the difference of reason why at the moment those two are being picked just due to the fact of that.
Jordie Barrett watch, week 2. Second 5. Still looking phenomenal. Does he belong?
What about his rugby?
Yeah. Well, I don't think quite often he's got one of the worst haircuts on the paddock, so let's not say that he's looking too sharp like that, but he loves a terrible lid. But looking really, really good. 2 weeks in, sticking with him there. Last week you were like, okay, no, I still like him at fullback. This week are you like, okay? Back?
Oh, look, I still like him at fullback, don't get me wrong. But for the Canes mix, because I thought Morby was awesome at the back, and I think it opens up opportunities for Love as well. I couldn't split them. In my form 15, I've got Harville and Barrett both in the 12. Like that, Davey were pretty influential as well on the other side. So an expected ding-dong battle. I couldn't split them in the end, but he certainly he's got the courage of a 12, man. He does not, when he commits to a line, he commits, and he's got the finesse of a kicking game as well. So he is a great fit. He is definitely a great fit.
Bryn?
No, look, I think Jordie Barrett at 12 for the Hurricanes, it's really important for them to have him there. I think, look, we've talked about his triple threat game, whether it be run, pass, kick. Defensively, he's tough in that kind of contact area that you need as a 12. He's great in that area. So, and it takes a lot of pressure off the likes of Jackson Garden Basham. And if you have Morby again at fullback or that kind of inexperienced back as a 15, he's massive for that group and what he can do. So, and the fact that he can kick goals. So,
Brenna, do you think you mentioned? It might have been offline or on the show, but you mentioned about 12s actually being more of the, I suppose, the starter for plays, that they almost get the ball to either go out the back or play tip passes or run hard lines. I think because we've seen a trend in that, he is a really good fit in that sense as well because of that skill set, his ability to sort of play as a first receiver and backing up your point about taking the pressure off those younger guys in the 10 jersey and or 15. So I think that's probably why he's transitioned there as well, because the more times he can have the ball, the better it is for the Canes.
Yeah.
And I think that as well, Chip, like you said, if you watch, all the rugby, whether it be in Australia, look at the Brumbies on the weekend, they run a very similar shape of line-out mauls, and they're probably the best exponents at the moment of actually like percentages of being able to score off that kind of shape, because pretty much every team is running that shape at the moment. You've got obviously the 12 really, really wide, and so people would probably think that number 12 area is just a bam, kind of getting over that contact and being real physical in that. You can have that when you have that strike, but I think it's the ability to be able to, like I said to that example of Davey, when he scored that try when Nuggie against the Highlanders better, he shot out, he had the ability to be able to look up at that space and have that subtle touch that you need as a 12, I think. And so, Jordie can do that. He can do subtle touches. He can do bridge balls that we've seen him do for the Hurricanes for years gone by. And so, he's a great exponent of being able to be the person that can do that, especially with the skill set that he has and the fact that in contact as well, when you're needed as a 12, he can do that in spades, definitely.
The Brumbies are really good at putting kicks in behind too off those mauls in the 22. They've got a lot of tries out of doing that. So I'm looking forward to the trans-Tasman stuff and little intricacies like that.
And just on that, Jip, the reason why the Brumbies are so good at it is because their line-out maul is so dominant. Yeah. And so whenever you've got a going forward line-out drive, you look at your backfield cover, whether it be a 9 or for us, we have a little bit different. We might have it back on the blind side. If you have that rolling maul, you've got to stick that guy close to you, the guy in the boot as well. If you have a little bit of animation in and around that ruck, taking that blind side, you've got all that kick space in behind because the fullback is covering for like that long kick that Bowden Barrett did on the weekend for Big Robbo, those kind of kicks there. So there's a lot of backfield space, and look, the Brumbies and the Australian teams actually in general are seeing that space a lot during their games and on the weekend.
Well, let's bring it back to Marshy then, shall we? Off the back of that, we mentioned it earlier. He doesn't like the rolling maul tactics. He's mostly talking about the line-out drives, I think, in the majority of cases, not necessarily what you're talking about. But he says a lack of creativity, a lack of entertainment. He just thinks there's too much of it. We've seen doubles to both Highlanders hookers this week. We saw Kurt Eklund get 3 the week before. We've seen the Brumbies for years scored truckloads of tries off it. Are those tactics as bad as he says they are?
Well, I come in here and I talk about going entries into the 22 and getting points. That's the goal. So you don't go into a driving maul and that's your only option. But because they're scoring tries from it, they're going to keep it in there. But they'll have other options off there. And I think in past years, we've seen so many teams go to these bunter plays or trick plays off mauls that it's sort of done a full circle that everyone's preparing for these trick plays and probably forgotten about defending a maul. And you'll watch as the season goes on, teams will adjust and focus on defending the maul. That then creates opportunities to bounce out and attack that transition zone. So it's about manipulating and getting across the try line. So however you do it, and I think Marshy would agree, even when he was back playing, you just get across the line any way you can. If they were mauling every 2 seconds and it would collapse and they get a turnover, then it's a dumb option. But because they keep scoring 5-pointers, it's smart to me. And I'm a forward. And I'm a hooker.
And you wish you weren't retired. Scoring all of these tries.
100%.
Brynna, what do you make of it?
Oh, look, I think for the Highlanders, just to talk about the Highlanders first, for being able to grind out a win, they haven't won a game this year. And so, look, if you keep scoring tries off a line-out maul, you keep going there until they stop you. And so, if they do stop you, like Jip said, if they continue to put more people in that maul, then it gives you opportunities in the transition, or might bring them a little bit tighter. So then you can go a little bit wider, which the Hurricanes do really well off their attack phase shape. So, look, I think the frustration probably from Marshy was that he probably knows that the Highlanders can have a lot of variety and can play at an up-speed tempo and a speed that they usually do. But look, I think for the Highlanders, they'll take it. They would have scored 10 line-out more drives as long as they had a win, and good to see the coaches having a beer after the game and the later pitches of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's the last thought. Like, they're just trying to get a W, any way possible. And I mean, it was tight there for a while until, MP's discipline let them down again.
Yeah. When I look at it and I think back over history at the line-out drive, I'm not sure that a lot has necessarily changed, though, has it? There aren't really many rules that have changed to make the line-out drive more dominant. It's really just an evolution. Like when you think about the Springboks a few years ago used to do it, then the Argentinians did it really well. And now it's sort of just evolved as part of New Zealand's game. Yeah,
and probably an area we used to get dominated in, and now an area that we can hold our own, if not dominate ourselves. So it's definitely a crucial part of the game. And as I say, like, the defence will give you the pitches, and then you just have to make the decision. If they stay out, there's no point taking it into a transition and getting smashed, because I'm pretty sure that's boring as well.
Because you look at this one going forward, who the Highlanders are playing next. They would have seen. If you're previewing them, we've got to really make sure that we do our line out more, or else they're going to score tries. And so, like I said before, they might tighten up your team a little bit. Then that brings up the transition zone that Jib's talking about, or then even it brings out the fact that you can go a little bit wider because it's so tight and congested in that maul. So I think the biggest thing as well, you just got to be able to adapt, and you've got to be able to have the coaching and as leaders as well and players, you've got to be able to try and fix it out on the run. So obviously it might be a little bit hard in game. You'd like to think you might have a few solutions of how you can try and fix that, but then as players, it's your job then, and coaches as well, to have solutions around it and being able to rectify it, because you have your preview, and then teams are going to come in. If you don't fix it, then you have those kind of comments that Marshy's going to continue to keep harping on about.
Well, Tony Brown, one of Marshy's old teammates, so he'll be putting on the cheese cutter pretty happy this week, won't he?
He'll definitely have a spring in his step, and looking for back-to-back, I'd say. And if it's in rolling mauls and he gets back-to-back, I think the cheese cutter will be quite happy.
Yeah, and against the Hurricanes, is it something that you think that they will get as much success of?
Look, I thought the Hurricanes held their own against a strong forward pack. It was definitely a tight collision. I think Jason Ryan summed it up really well at half time. He was like, she's all on in there, and there's already some battered and bruised bodies at half time. So, and they'll be up for it, and I'm sure they'll use the depth of their squad, so it won't be a question of fatigue.
No, the Highlanders.
It will be,
sorry, Karl.
Sorry, no, just on that Jip around that game, because we did obviously analysis in our GPS numbers, and that was the highest running load and highest contact of the year that we've had the whole year. So you talk around opportunities, Jip. Players are going to get opportunities, but I guess for the Hurricanes, it's been able to take the learnings of last time they played in Moana, a few guys were able to have those opportunities, but it's time, it's an opportunity for them to be able to not make that same mistake and try and rectify that loss they had earlier in the year.
Bryn, they're doing it without Shannon Frizzell now. Unfortunately, he's injured. He's obviously been in stellar form again this year. How big of an impact is that on the Highlanders, considering the impact he makes every week? Do they have the people to do the job that he does?
Oh, look, it's huge, man. If there's probably two guys in the Highlands team that you don't want to get injured. There's probably Aaron Smith and Shannon Frizzell. The guy has just been immense in a losing team this year, and he's been one of the guys that you put on that. When you put on that Highlands jersey as a fan or as a people supporting him, you're like, man, he gives you everything you need every single week, and so it's going to be a massive loss for that team. But there's a lot of guys in there that can be able to go into that position. Like you've got Gareth Evans there, who's come back into their Highlanders group, who was an All Black and has a lot of variety and flexibility in that loose forward trio. You've got Makati Tu'u, who's playing some really good footy, and then obviously you've got who else am I missing there? And obviously Billy Harmon as well. Shouldn't be too far away in that loose forward trio. So it might be, you might have a couple of that loose forward trio working collectively to be able to try and get Shannon Frizzell, the person. But I think they have a few players there that can try and help to be able to give that impetus that Shannon Frizzell's done for the whole year.
No Frizzell, no Akira Ioane. There's a few guys out in that sixth position at the moment. Who's the front runner right now for the sixth jersey with people like that out?
Yeah, I mean it's a tough one. I think there's been a number of sixes put their hand up, but a lot of the guys that are incumbents are out. As you mentioned. So you'd have to say on form, performance, and regular consistency of minutes, Ethan Blackett is probably right in the mix there. There's probably potentially maybe if those guys aren't back. I know Akira's not far off. But there might be opportunity, like Tom Robinson's putting in a good shift. I think Mickey Ali Tu'u's playing his best rugby at Super Rugby the last 2 weeks. He's really upped his work rate in those collision areas. So a couple of those guys are doing really well.
Whoever that is will join Artie Savia, who's phenomenal right now, and Sam Kane, who, despite his team losing 25-0, Bryn, was again an absolute ripper of a player on the weekend. He's looking great this season.
Oh, he is, mate. And look, that's what you get when you get to be able to play consistent minutes. Let's not forget that he had a massive injury that he was coming back from, and had the ability to be able to go on that India tour, to be able to get some meaningful minutes, to be able to get some more game time and understanding and get him more feel, and then he's had a full preseason. He's been able to come back, and there's this the old Sam Kane that we always see. It's the fact that he's been able to be a race and contact hero. Look, he got Dalton Papali'i and him. It's a great contest anytime you see those two guys go up against each other, because look, they're both physical players. They both mean a lot to their team. Great at the turnover and being able to influence themselves in big moments. And look, it's just great to see Sam Kane being able to be on the field and play consistently at a high level, because look, we know it's always been there. He's just come back from a massive injury, and now we're seeing the reaps and the rewards of him being able to get that consistent minutes and being able to play at a high level due to that.
Yeah, look, I think for both of those guys, it's their simplicity of their mindset. And by that I mean, if you use Sam Kane in the aftermatch, he and when he got spoken to after the game, he just goes, we needed to win collisions and win races, and we didn't. And that you can just see that he did, because man, there was some big collisions from himself, but he seems to have done that all year. He's just won races to win that ball at the breakdown or clean rucks, and then he's like, his defence, man, that game against you guys, it was just incredible. It was the same on the weekend, and Artie's the same. It's all instincts. It's literally, I just need to win this collision. I need to keep my legs going. I can quick tap and score this try. You know, no clutter, no overthinking the situation. Just pull trigger. And I think both of those guys are just, man, I can't remember a week they haven't been in the Form 15.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Jip. I'll tell you what as well, Jip. I thought I was really impressed with the Blues against the Chiefs. Was their ability to be able to flood the ruck and how many turnovers have been able to slow down that ball that Sam Kane's talking about, winning cleans and being able to get that lightning quick ball. I don't know if it was a plan in the Blues, but I'll tell you what, it was impressive to watch the fact that look, anytime you can have 0 points, it's great for your defence coach. But look, I thought their breakdown work, man, especially first, second phase, or even on the edge, guys coming through the middle, putting a lot of pressure on Brad Webber and Cortez Ratima due to that. It was really impressive. I don't know if you saw that. I didn't know if you saw that was a plan.
Especially in that
really
first 30 minutes, man. That was into it, and then obviously the yellow card slowed things down. But you've got to credit their ability to keep them to 0, 3 yellow cards. They probably maybe attacked the rucks a little too much in the second half when they were on warnings and stuff. You know, they probably didn't get that balance right, and they may look at that as just going to 0 rucks and keeping their defensive line solid. But you just got to look at Ofa Tuangafasi's head to see the warfare that was out there, and he came off the bench because Marcel Renata went off, and man, I don't know if you've seen it on Instagram, there's about 20 stitches. It's brutal, man.
Because I think also as well, Jip, if you look at the Chiefs, people probably looking at that score 25-0 that the Blues really dominated. But look, I think the Chiefs, but they just missed opportunities. They had a lot of opportunities, especially in the back end of that first half. Sam Knock and who else was Simba in that job? Luke Romano. Luke Romano were back to back, and the fact that Ofa saves that try on the 40th minute, I thought that was a huge moment in the game because I think it's a little bit different.
It's a huge collision too.
Oh, massive collision. Probably actually some people might think that possibly could have been a yellow card, but it didn't get called for whatever reason. But I thought that was a big moment, and it just kind of shows where the Blues are at the moment. Their desperation and their scramble and big moments like that. You talk around just before half-time and just after half-time, those are probably big moments in games that you need to win. And look, I think they did that really, really well for the fact that they stopped that try. Sototo obviously had a couple of disallowed tries, especially in the 45th minute. But then that Robertson try, I thought was probably the nail in the coffin in that game. Look, the ability that Mark Telea is playing at the moment. Look, he was in my Form 15 team this week. He's been in electric form. Rico's ability to be able to show a bit of gas and offload, and then Bowden Barrett seeing that crossfield kick from Tom Robertson on the corner, probably caught him with the big red, giving his hand out saying, "Give me the ball, kick me the ball." But look, I thought that was a great work for the Blues, but I think the Chiefs had the opportunities and probably just didn't pull trigger and been able to execute in that game.
You know what I love most about that try for Tom Robinson is it's a great offload, awesome by Mark, awesome by Reeks, awesome by Bodie, but it's everyone's urgency to get into position. All the other guys that clean the rucks, all the other guys that set up an actual running line position that commit defenders so that they were short for the crossfield kick. Was, they just injected life. You watch, as soon as Mark goes, every Blues jersey is just like, whoom. And it's late in the game, and it's, it's a critical, not late in the game, but, early in the second half, easy to just think, oh, Mark's going to do his thing. Easy to think Reeks wins that race. Very easy. And he doesn't. They clean that ruck, quick ball, bang, try. That's what I liked about it the most, is that work off the ball by the other players that aren't mentioned.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump on the back of that, and it was evident in their last try, Jip. You look at Stephen Perifeta's line and the ability how he holds Jonah Lowe for that last try. For then Bowden Barrett gives that bridge pass, and AJ Lamb does a really good finish. But you look at Stephen Perifeta's line and who he holds to then give the ability when AJ Lamb then gets a one-on-one instead of being able to have 2 or 3 tackles, and it probably doesn't score on a try. So yeah, I think you're right, Jip. They're doing those 1% of things really, really well. that you probably don't see on TV, and probably people love seeing the tries and the offloads and all that. But look, they're just doing their job and they're nailing their role consistently, and they're doing it over and over and over again. So look, they're impressive to watch, and it's just kind of adding fire to what's going to be a hell of a game come Friday evening in Christchurch.
Yeah, and I probably need to keep my powder dry, but I'm going to say it anyway. Let's not forget the Chiefs were the sort of leading attacking side statistically with offloads, metres run. They're first or second in all those, and to keep them to 0, and they had their opportunities in the 22. I think how many entries? They had 8 entries into the 22, and a couple of 3 disallowed tries or 2 disallowed tries, but nonetheless there was still 0 points. So it was a hell of an effort, and let's. Like, Hamilton's not easy than that Blues Chiefs battle to go down there and get a result like that, and you can see the frustration on Sam Kane's face after the game. So they'll definitely take a lot of confidence from it. But there's another place we haven't, won for a long time, and it's on the road, and that's this Friday. So it sets it up. Oh man, I'm excited.
2004.
Good Friday.
2004.
Make it a great Friday.
The famous try. The Carlos Spencer
Carlos
try.
Spencer, yeah.
Wow, yeah, that's a long time.
You look at the work rate of Justin Collins in that try. Gets up there, supports.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen without Justin Collins.
Throws the perfect ball inside, off he goes. Yeah. Just touching on the Blues discipline, I suppose there's 2 ways to look at this. There's the, hey, you don't really want to cop 3 yellow cards, and let's face it, Offa's shoulder charge in the corner on Samasoni Tokiaho just before half-time could have been both a penalty try and a yellow card, because it would have been, if it had been called, it would have had to be both. It kind of shows, in a more positive aspect, a quite ruthless approach from the team. You don't want it, but if that's what it takes to be ruthless enough to win rugby games, then maybe that's just a fair enough kind of byproduct.
Yeah, it is, but you have to adjust to the referee. I think the best teams in the world, I always say it on here, as long as the rules are consistent in that 80 minutes, it doesn't have to be week to week, but within that 80 minutes, because the teams that adjust the quickest to referees normally will go on and win. But they clearly wanted to attack that breakdown. It was clearly a tactic, and sometimes in that fierce heat of the battle, and all you know is the game plan, you're just like, I just need to get in there and rip in. I just think in the second half it would have potentially been better if they'd just, maybe let a few 0 rucks. And by 0 rucks I just mean, just have the tackler in there and everyone else can just be on their feet, because the ref was just watching them.
Yeah.
So it's that balance of winning collisions and taking it 2 sides, and making sure that you don't end up with too many. Because I know Leon won't be wanting 3 people in. Well, I suppose he'd probably take 3 yellow cards in a win every week, though, wouldn't he?
Yeah. And no bonus point to the opposition.
Yeah. I'll tell you what though, so obviously, they'll take the loonies and they'll be thinking look, we can't give away, have 3 yellow cards in any game, let alone, in a Super Rugby, in a tight tussle. But look, what it can do, it can galvanise a group with being able to do that, and especially in moments like that. Look, don't get it wrong, honestly, it's a tough place to win in Hamilton. Look, we've had our problems in Hamilton being able to win there with their crowd and how they play there. But look, they'll take the learnings and wanting to be able to not make sure that doesn't happen, and being able to have solutions for that. But look, anytime you can win like that with 3 yellow cards, not score any points against them, you can turn that into a positive as well. So no doubt they'll be talking around, they can't do that again. But look, man, it's a great way to be able to build culture and being able to show, look, we can play with 13 men, we can go with 12 men, we can go deep.
Sam Knott, broken hand, 65 minutes.
Oh, and that's why he's in my full 15, mate.
Likewise, mate.
I don't know how. If he had a broken hand, I do not know how he was able to pass for 65 minutes.
He's from the mighty Taniwha, mate.
Yeah.
They must have a good doc, mate. They've been able to give a bit of an injection into his hand, because that's a hell of a feat to be able to do that.
Well, I think because Finlay Christie went down, he just had to grit his teeth.
Get into it.
Yeah, and he did. Yeah, you wouldn't have known until after the game.
Yeah. Not Bowden Barrett, sorry, Anton Leonard-Brown. Another guy who's gone down injured in that game. He's just one of the most consistent players in the country, and in a team that's kind of wanting to be consistent, that's a hell of a blow. Yeah,
he's definitely a big part of their success, and not having him out there in key moments, was probably noticeable. But they have shown they know how to plug holes, this Chiefs squad, and they do have depth. And I know I've personally, and we've harped on about that, is that depth of squad. And they'll make sure that the preparation's sharp so that the person who fits the bill, and I think there'll be none other than Alex Nankerville. Like, he's filled every other spot, and I think it gives him a really good opportunity just to solidify himself in one position and be able to take the form he's had in every position and focus on that. So it is a big loss in terms of his leadership and his experience and his communication for, Josh Ioane and Bryn Gatland. But I think in a guy with Nankerville, they're probably in safe hands.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually said that, Jim, because we've been big advocates for Nankerville, and for the fact that don't know how long Anton's out. Let's say worst case scenario didn't look that flash on the weekend, he's out for the rest of the year. We talk around the midfield combos and at the All Black level. Look, if him and Quinta Pye can be able to form a really good partnership, then who's to say that he won't be in that All Black environment if he plays consistently well? Because he's been doing it for a very long time, and I guess the thing for Alex, with the fact that Quinn and ALB's been there, the consistency of him being able to play every single week at this level probably hasn't happened a lot. It's happened a lot at Tasman, and we've seen with a lot of time and being able to play a lot, you get great performances out of him. So for Nank, I think it's an awesome opportunity for him if he wants to stake his chance for at higher honours. It's going to be a great block if Anton Lienert-Brown's injured for a long period of time.
Huge competition in the midfield. No shortage of talent there at all.
And we've just added Geordie into the mix.
Yeah, we added Geordie into the mix. Down there, you guys have got about 12 All Black midfielders just in one squad. It's incredible. Let's look over the Tassie. Brumbies and Rebels. Both picked up wins. You expecting those results?
I didn't pick the Rebels, I'll be honest, especially over in Perth. I think Bryn did, not too sure. But it just shows, we said a couple of weeks ago, they're the team that's improving week to week the most, and for them to get a result, it would be really good for their confidence in their group. I think the Force will be pretty disappointed with the way they've gone. They really started with a hiss and a roar, and I certainly started thinking that they're going to tip up a few sides and make a push for the finals. I'm not saying it's over, but they do need to turn this decline around. Maybe it's around injuries and depth of squad, I'm not too sure, but it certainly wasn't the Force that we saw in the first few rounds.
Yeah, I think what I was impressed with the Rebels is obviously a big advocate, obviously. But no, look, I think what I really enjoyed about them was the fact that they had that red card. Nu'u gets sent off in the 51st minute, and the game was in the balance, and then being able to, I thought they just grinded it out. They really grinded out a tough victory and been able to close out their game at the back end of the game. There's a bit of rain changing there, and they adapted really well. But look, I think for the fact that we probably questioned a little bit earlier there around their ability to stay in games and being able to put in consistent performances at a high level for a high amount of time. They've been the most improved team and been able to grind out a win like that after having a red card in a big moment in the game. It's been massive for their movement going forward, and us New Zealand team's coming over with a bit of confidence very soon.
So that membership is going to be in the mail soon, Bryn. Converted Rebels fan.
Well, we do play the Rebels in Melbourne, so I might just miss that week. And coach from afar.
Let's move on to our dream team. If you haven't been in it, RugbyPass are doing a dream team competition for Super Rugby. You go online, you have a look at the players who will form that week, you choose your people, and if your people align with the majority, you have the ability to win prizes at RugbyPass. This week it's Terry Saunders who's won that prize. Congratulations, Terry. At the end of the season, if you're the most consistently aligned with what everyone thinks a formed team is, then you'll get a shot at coming on here. Good luck.
You've got to start selling that better, mate.
So for you guys, any big changes, Chipper, in your dream team?
Quite a few. I've gone with the two Blues big boys in 1 and 3. I thought the scrum was key to their success, especially early. So Hodgman and Tuangafasi. The hookers I struggled with a little bit because I thought Makaleo and Marshall were great, but I think James O'Reilly takes the cake. Really happy for him. He's been plugging away for a number of years, and he gets that opportunity, and man, did he take it. He looked exceptional, and not just in the open ball play and around the field, but his darts and his scrums were really sharp. Went for the two big fellas from the Crusaders, and I hope Quinton Strain's not too bad. Was that cramp, Bryn? Was that Achilles?
I'm not too sure. There hasn't been any stuff around it, but I'm not too sure what it was. Hopefully it's not too bad.
Yeah, he was going so well, and he's just had such a bad run with injuries, so I hope he's all right. So I've gone with Strange, and you can't go past Scott Barrett putting it all on the line at the end there, and a big skipper's knock. Tom Robinson obviously at 6, Sam Kane, Adi Savia, Don't really need to go into that. Sam Knott, broken hand and great performance. Bodie Barrett, 10. Already said Harville Barrett, Geordie Barrett at 12. I couldn't split them. Reeks at 13. Julian Savia, Mark Talea and Will Jordan.
Yeah, solid. The shrine to the Barretts continues on the show today.
Oh yeah, 3.
I'm presuming that all 3 Barretts are in your team as well?
What did I actually go with? No, I didn't actually. I think I've gone pretty similar to Jip actually. I went for Offa. He was immense in that game, being able to have two big tackles to be able to stop tries, and then I've gone Alex Hodgman. I actually went, I notable mention to James O'Reilly, but I've actually gone the Highlanders squared, the 2 hookers. Yeah. I've gone both of them. So the Highlanders squared have actually gone into my form 15. I've actually gone Lord. I was pretty impressed with how he went on the weekend. I did want to go Quinton, but just the fact that he left a little bit earlier, I thought Josh Lord and his ability to be able to have turnovers was actually pretty good in that Blues game. I've got Scott Barrett for what we've talked about. I went Ethan Blackadder again. Look, he's just been in a rich reign of form. Look, his ability to be able to score tries, but they've been able to win contacts in the advantage line. He doesn't stop working. Defensively, he had a big day with 20-odd tackles, so he was great for us. I've gone Sam Kane again at 7. I did go Artie Sevier, but 2 honourable mentions. I thought Hoskins had one of his better games of the year, and I actually had Cullen Grace, who's actually been playing some really consistent football for us, and he's probably due actually to be number 8 out my team pretty soon. I've got Sam Knock for his ability to be able to play with a broken hand, but not just the fact with that. Look, I think his defensive scramble was great, even though he did get yellow carded. His ability to be able to scramble and big moments in that game was big. I thought a notable mention for Jamie Booth as well. His impact, especially coming late in the piece with TJ Perinar being ruled out on game day in the warm-up. I thought he was great. I've gone Bodie at 10. I went to Total as a notable mention. I thought the fact that he got 2 tries disallowed, his running meters, defenders beat him consistently. He continues to keep doing that, which is a real trademark of his. But the bust was immense, both with ball in hand, and this 50-22 was big in that game. I've gone Davey Harville at 12. Again, you could have gone him or Geordie, but I think the fact that Davey was there last week and his consistency has warranted that. 12. I've gone Rico at 13. I've got Mark Talea on the right side, and then I had Will Jordan at fullback. And a notable mention to Morby, who I thought was good for the Hurricanes on the weekend as well.
I like that you mentioned Hoss, because I feel like he really targeted that game. A lot of talk about Pitagus Soakula, and it was like he really wanted to make a statement, as did the other members of the pack. They really tried to slow down his time and space. And it just is a credit to how well Pitagus has been playing, but that's how it felt when I was watching. I was like, man, Hoss is really trying to make a statement here, which is great to see. That competition brings out that competitive edge, and it sets him up well for the guy that Bryn mentioned as well. Hoskins and Cullen Grace this Friday.
And when the Blues are playing that fast, you just know that Hoskins Satutu is going to get some chances.
100%, and any time the scrum's that dominant, you know that it does create the ability for him to pop off the back and explode and make 20 or 30 pretty quickly.
Okay, well, let's have a look at the week ahead then. We've got the Hurricanes Moana Pacifica, of course. Where do you guys feel that was going? It's actually it's happened, so...
Yeah, it'll be the Canes.
The Canes?
Yeah, I'll go Canes, yeah.
Okay, Crusaders versus the Blues.
Blues.
Crusaders.
Yeah. Yes, the Rebels and the Reds is the next one, Bryn.
I'll go the Reds, but I think it'll be a tight tussle, just with the fact that the Rebels and the improvement that they've had. I think it'll be a tight game, but I think the Reds will get up in the end. Reds.
We've come a long way, haven't we?
I know he has.
We've come a long way.
He laughed at them 3 weeks ago. now he's talking them up.
The Chiefs versus Moana Pacifica.
Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Highlanders, Hurricanes, Bryn?
Where's that been played?
Dunedin.
Oh, man, it's tough. I'll go Canes.
Hurricanes.
And the Force versus the Waratahs to close it out.
Waratahs.
I'm going to go Force because I've backed them the whole year.
Yeah.
So keep going the Force.
Keep going the Force. They're at home as well, so...
Tars coming off a bye.
Yeah.
Early arrival into Perth. Set it up.
Yeah.
Tars.
Okay, there we go. Well, you've heard it here first, but really there's only one game this weekend that's super duper important, and that is the Crusaders of Bryn Hall versus the Blues of James Parsons. Thank you very much, guys. What's on the line this weekend between you two? Is there anything?
There hasn't been a wager of such.
Oh yeah.
We could
Let's do it. So if I lose,
you spend a lot of time in Queenstown, so you just pick a vineyard that you hang out at, and we maybe just get a nice little bottle of red or something for the winner.
You didn't want to put a jersey on. You got to wear a Crusaders jersey.
Oh look, I think it's disrespectful to your strong heritage down there in the Crusaders for someone that's played so much in a Blues jersey. I just know there'd be a lot of men out there that would be sick to see me in it.
That's why it makes it even better, mate.
Including myself.
Well, Luke Romano might not be so sick, but everybody else will be.
Oh, I mean, it's easy for him. He played 40-odd games for the Blues, so he's worn both of them already.
That's true. Probably got a selection to choose from at home.
He probably does.
Which one brings out his eyes the most? Who knows?
You could wear Dan Carter. He's got a couple.
Yeah, true. We'll go bottle of red. A nice bottle of red.
Yeah, nice.
Okay, excellent. I look forward to seeing that next week. Okay, guys. Well, thank you very much down in Christchurch. Good luck. Crusaders versus Blues. Thank you again, James Parsons. And we'll see you all again next week here on the Aotearoa Rugby Pod to catch all of the action on Sky Sport and all of the analysis on rugbypass.com.